a full-on complete collapse of the system is going to occur. It's just a matter of when. Is it going to be 2025? I don't know. I just keep feeling like if I listen to my own intuition, it keeps telling me 2025 has a very high potential to be very dramatic.
This is Kaiser Johnson with Liberty and Finance, and these are the Miles Franklin Weekly Specials from March 18th through March 25th, 2024, while supplies last. First, we feature 2023 1-ounce Silver Krugerrands at $3.10 over spot. We also have backdated 1/10-ounce gold Canadian maples at $35 over melt with a minimum order of 4. And finally, we're offering our choice 1-ounce Palladium bars at just $119 over spot. To order our specials or any of the many other options we have available, call us at 1-888-81-LIBERTY. That's 1-888-815-4237. We're available after hours and on weekends, and we look forward to speaking with you.
Welcome back to Liberty and Finance. We're always excited to have this wildly popular returning guest. Gregory Mannarino is the founder of TradersChoice.net. He's an active trader, a trading coach, and he joins us this Monday, March 18th, 2024. Thanks for coming back on Liberty and Finance, Greg.
Thanks for having me. Love to be here. I appreciate it.
You have an explosively growing following, people who appreciate your frank and fresh appraisals of what's going on out there in the financial markets, in the geopolitical sphere, even having to do with drag racing sometimes. But anyway, you're a student of many things, and you're keeping us aware of what's going on from your point of view as you see it. One of the questions that people are wondering about is about strategic relocation in times of turmoil. We certainly saw in the past 3.5 years a lot of civil unrest. There were riots in various towns. There were downtowns taken over by so-called autonomous groups. There was burning and rioting and looting and all kinds of things going on. All of that may have nothing to do with your decision to relocate. Everybody has their own reasons. My wife and I had ours. We moved to Central Florida. And there is a question from a viewer about why you left Nevada.
It was multifactorial why I left Nevada. I love the place. It was great to me for a long time. But what it really came down to is I wanted a lifestyle change, honestly. I wanted to be closer to my family. We were taking care of Edward, the Pearl Harbor survivor, as you know. And then when he passed on, we thought that maybe it was time for a change, Not that was, not bad memories or anything. Edward did live to 99. Lovely guy. I still miss him till this day. But, it was just time for a change, honestly. And I've loved Florida. I've always wanted to live here. I did live here, actually. When I was 3, my parents moved here. And my mom got homesick for her mom, moved back to Brooklyn, New York at that point. But always loved this place. And I'm really happy to be here.
We've got a question here about something that's very much in people's minds financially right now. The Bank Term Funding Program, BTFP, just ended about last week, the 11th, last Monday. And that means, if we understand correctly, that banks can no longer hand off toxic assets in the forms of underwater bonds and so on to the Fed for full face value loans as they had for the past year. We have a question from a viewer. Is reverse repo a different term for the Bank Term Funding Program? I heard the liquidity generated by the Bank Term Funding Program offset completely the tightening monetary policy. Now the program expires, banks will begin to feel the pinch. What's your take on this? So first of all, difference between those two programs?
Well, the repo program is, I've tried to describe this to people in as simple terms as I possibly can. All this is a mechanism to trick the system into thinking that it's more liquid than it actually is. You have the Federal Reserve passing vast amounts of cash back and forth between institutions, and it's just a way to literally fool the system into believing it's more liquid. That's all it is, and it's been tapering down dramatically as of late. No coincidence here at all, in my opinion, why we're seeing war expand at the same time. It's just another avenue to pull cash into the now. With regard to these banks and a safety net to the Federal Reserve, it's never going to disappear. It will. Hold that thought. The smaller institutions, of course, are going – first of all, there's a consolidation going on here. And we talked about this a long, long time ago, and that's what they're looking to do. So the smaller institutions, and we haven't seen anything yet, in my view, as to where this is going to go. Their assets are going to be absorbed by the bigger institutions. But the bigger institutions are never going to lose their lifeline to the Federal Reserve. There's all kinds of stuff that goes on here, behind the scenes, and there's just no way. Look, the bottom line is we are already in a full-blown, full-on liquidity crisis, and this crisis is going to get much, much worse. I mean, it's an incredible paradox to think of it this way. We have a world that most people would say is absolutely awash in debt, and it keeps skyrocketing, debts and deficits ballooning. But no matter how big these debts and deficits get, this is a black hole that can never be filled because it must constantly grow. And look, they're going to keep pushing this and kicking the can down the road, at least through this presidential selection cycle, in my view. 2025 is going to be, or has the potential to be, a massive game changer. And they're setting this up here for, going back to what you were talking about, massive civil unrest. It's going to happen. They're looking for every avenue of control here, what they can do. They're keeping the people divided. They're keeping them angry, getting people fired up here. And it's all leading up to a climax. And you can just see the writing, where this is going. They want people to violently uprise, giving them these central banks who really run everything here more power to control the people. That's what it's all about. I mean, the system is being destroyed, dismantled piece by piece, as you and I have been spoken about, and I've been talking about this for the longest time here, because they're going to be issuing it a new system, but they have to kill the new system in a specific way. They have to create more dependency on the system, and that's what they're doing. And they've been very successful at this. What we are living in is a side effect of something that's been planned out from a very, very long time ago. We, the people, just get strung along here, and we're playing this game of incomplete information. But if we understand who our enemy is and what they want, it just makes our lives simpler. We know what to do. At least you had to strategize against it, and not to fall through the trapdoors that they're setting for us. That's how I look at it.
I think related to this point that you're making, there are two questions from viewers. One says, please comment on the Great Taking. And the other one says, well, I'll get to the other one first. So if you first address your thoughts on this idea from the Great Taking, we can put a link to that ebook in the description of this video, but it talks about the vulnerability potentially of people no longer really owning what they think they own when they own shares in a company.
Well, look, I mean, that Great Taking thing, it was very well put together. But I would have to say this, that anyone who follows your work or my work did not find a single thing that was surprising to them. You and I have been out here for a very long time, warning of all that stuff. It was just put together really good, and I'm glad it came out, because maybe it did wake up some people. But I went through it, and I'm like, what's new here? I don't think anything is new in it, honestly. But it was put together nicely, yeah.
What might be new for some people is the awareness that I think you have outlined in the past, but we've talked in the past about how nothing in the bank really belongs to you. In fact, you're talking about how the banks, especially the central banks, are international in nature. They're not really allied or loyal to any particular country, and they always, throughout history, have been in the game to own it all and to turn the rest of us into serfs. But in this case, people might not have realized that anything that they have deposited in brokerage accounts or any stocks that they think they own, that sort of thing, that they really don't have direct legal title to those things, just as they don't their own deposits in the bank. Any comments for you as far as the relative safety of your financial assets, whether they're in a bank or in a brokerage?
Well, unless you have direct access to it and you can hold it like this stuff here, I guess there's always going to be some type of a counterparty risk. But unfortunately, that's the system. That's what we're forced to live in. And then, going back to what you said, none of this is real. This whole thing, everything is an illusion. And people are led to believe things that are absolutely false from the get-go. And then when they try to when they hear someone with an argument that may be counter to what they have deeply held, then they get angry at you because they can't handle it. But the truth of the matter is, none of this is real. I tell people, be very, very careful about raise your perception, raise your awareness of things. Try to think outside the box. I mean, anyone that's following any one of the mainstream media outlets, even those that are maybe not so mainstream, they have to listen to that stuff and say, what's really going on? I always urge people to use their own God-given intellect. People know the truth when they hear it. And people want to be lied to. That's the truth. They want to feel like there is some thing out there that's going to release them from their stresses and everything. It ain't there. But that tiny bit of whatever it might be keeps people paralyzed. It doesn't allow them to take the actions that they need to do. I tell people all the time, my channel is a channel for people of action. People are going to sit there, analyze the situation. Maybe not listen to me at all, but find someone that you do connect with and then take action. Don't just sit back and be entertained by this stuff. You need to act. I mean, this thing is coming apart. It's coming apart faster. I mean, look at the economic news that we're getting here by their own numbers. Factory activity, manufacturing contracting at its fastest pace we've ever seen in history. Business investment, a major leading indicator here of the economy. There's nothing anymore. This whole thing is going down. It's a disaster area, and it's only going to get worse from here. As the central banks, again, are fulfilling their end game to be the lenders and buyers of last resort, to take the current economy down and whatever's left of the middle class, creating this neo-feudal system here. And people are just allowing this to happen because they believe that the next thing that they're going to put behind the Resolute desk is going to have their best interest in mind. I'm sorry to tell people, but it's not true. Okay, the world is not run by presidents, kings, queens, monarchs, or dictators. It is the central banks who make the rules. They control the economy. They control the financial system. They control the financial markets. There you go. Everything else is just an illusion.
You've probably just answered, but I'm going to go ahead and ask these viewers questions because I think it fits in with this broader picture that you just painted. We have one viewer says, will it be time for us to head to the hills if Trump loses this upcoming election? And the next one says, do you think Trump is literally playing a part in a show, or is he really trying to save the USA? Not sure what's in it for him if he's just playing a part.
All right, well, let's say this here. First of all, we're starting to see a dynamic already starting to play out. We hear about these multi-billionaires pulling out of the market. We're hearing about CEOs pulling out of the market, senators pulling out of the market, billions and billions of dollars. Why are they doing this here? Market keeps going higher. Because, look, this is, in my opinion, this is a setup, and the people are being, set up for a great fall here. I do not believe there will be an election. There will be a selection. And as it looks right now, it looks like the selected one will be the current creature sitting behind the Resolute desk. Now, the market wants Trump. I've told people this a million times. Trump is a corporate guy. He understands the game. He's already talked about cutting corporate taxes and making the 1% and 2%ers. Of course, they're gonna flourish. The rich are gonna do very well under this man. There's no doubt about it. Now, war, in my opinion, is gonna trump the market here. War generates more cash for the military-industrial complex and everything connected than any other endeavor on earth. Now, me personally, depending on risk, okay, I believe they're going to keep yield suppressed right up to the presidential selection here. We'll see afterwards here. But if Biden gets another term here, I'm going to pull out. More than likely, I will pull out all my cash out of this market just prior to the selection, because I think the market has the potential to take a big hit now. That may actually be a blessing in disguise, depending on what happens with the debt market. Because you know how I operate. I don't sit here fixated on what the stock market's going to do minute by minute, day by day. I want to see what its drivers are doing, more specifically the 10-year yield, which gives us a huge clue as to where risk is in the market. And then secondarily, I look at the dollar on a relative strength basis, and I combine this as a neat little equation called the Mannarino Market Risk Indicator, free to everybody, right on my website. But if let's say, for example, pull out of the market, all of a sudden Biden gets, selected here, the market drops substantially. If I see the 10-year yield remaining stable, I'm going to look to buy back in here. If it turns out the other way and Trump gets in here, I think the market could potentially go much, much higher. Because what is he going to do? What would Trump do? He's going to make sure that rates stay suppressed. Period. We already know where he stands on this. He wanted negative rates during his term, which means we would have had to pay to keep our cash in the banks. And he wanted a weaker dollar. All right. I don't think we're getting negative rates, but I would imagine that he would keep rates suppressed here. He would make sure that these companies remain profitable and the market's going up, which means the Fed's going to create a lot more cash out of thin air. We'll still get a dollar devaluation on a grand scale. I personally believe if Trump honestly believes that the last election was stolen, along with a third of the American people or more who believe the same thing, what makes him think they can't do it again? Are there safeties put in place? No, what they did was investigate it. They found nothing because honestly, if there are a group of people that have that power to rig an election, you're trying to tell me they can't cover it up either? Of course, I think he's playing a part. That's that's what I say here. I think this whole thing is a game. I think the American people are being played on a grand scale. And unfortunately, we're going to just have to live with it. We don't have a voice anymore. It's a terrible thing. And even if Trump wins, this is still going to end up being a miserable situation. We heard about his bloodbath comment with regard to, most people say it was the auto industry. It can't just possibly be the auto industry. This entire thing is already a bloodbath, and it's getting a lot worse as the economy deteriorates faster. Look, a lot of people took that differently. I understand people got to jump to Trump's defense here. But the fact is the man was telling people the truth. He was telling people the truth, and his own supporters can't hear it. It's not just about – they don't want to hear it. Okay, bloodbath, auto industry, just the auto industry? Really? How about no? This whole thing is coming apart, and will get a lot worse moving forward, unfortunately. People, get yourselves on the right side of this and do it now.
A few minutes ago, in contrast to this talk about the fake environment and the fake news and the fake financial coverage and everything that we get, you held up a piece of silver and you said, people should have some of this. We have a question. If silver, quote, goes crazy, whatever that may be, could we not use our U.S. 90% legal tender, what's affectionately referred to as junk silver or constitutional silver, as actual, quote, real money in our local economies?
If they allow that, sure. You think they're going to allow it? Well, I don't think so. They don't want people transacting in anything except the dollar. It's amazing that our so-called representatives, they don't want you in gold, silver. Some of them like gold, but what would they feel? How would they feel if people started to transact in these things? Let's say go to the store. That might be a whole different ball game here. They want you in the dollar or in a central bank issued note. It's an incredible thing here. We're not allowed to transact in other things. It's crazy. This would be a beautiful situation, but it would take central banks' power away, and they're not going to let it go that easy. They will defend that power if they have to kill millions of people. And our so-called representatives, they know that, and they're on the board too. They know. Look, a central bank's power resides in only one thing, and that's their ability to inflate. And that's another reason why we're going to be getting rate cuts. Everyone says it's not happening. A lot of people who follow my word, it's not happening, Greg. It is happening. It's happening because they've already won the battle on the economy. It's been destroyed. They got the consumer by the throat. They need to inflate. They must continue to inflate, and they're going to do that by cutting rates. Cutting rates allows them to create vast amounts of cash out of nothing and get into the market and buy more debt, because that's how they suppress rates. It doesn't happen by magical decree. They get into the market and make it happen. People have no idea.
Okay, so let's help the people who have no idea, because I believe it's about 99.5% of people who don't have appropriate protections in place against what's coming. You described the destruction of the dollar, the purchasing power of the dollar, but the insistence by those in authority that we have to continue to use this system, whatever system they give us, and that is likely to become more trackable and traceable if it's central bank digital currency, whatever the next incarnation of that is. If you're an ordinary mom and pop, Main Street USA, you may have a mortgage, or you may have a home that you own outright. You've got, some of them have earnings that are coming in dollars. They've got savings accounts in the banks, hoping for a retirement at some point. What are the explicit impacts on ordinary mom and pop from these actions that are being taken now, and what they will lead to by the central banks?
Central banks are the enemy. Central banks have been in a race to the bottom forever now. Who can devalue their currency faster? And it's an incredible thing that people don't understand what they're seeing here. Oh, we're funding this and we're funding that. And why are we doing this? So it's all to keep the mechanism going here, because it must exponentially increase the the funding for whatever they want to throw at it, because that's how the system functions. Because without that, this whole thing turns back into Mad Max. People need to get out of a central bank note. I don't know another way to put it here. Only keep as many central bank notes around as you need, because you must participate in their system. Convert that into other things. If we understand, it should be very simple, that central banks must and will inflate. Period. They're going to devalue the currency further and pay people nothing with regard to interest earning accounts, weighed against the actual rate of inflation. It's thievery on an insane scale, but still, people are fixated about the king dollar, and they want to be in. You got to be nuts here. Convert that into an asset. Like these are gold and silver pieces here that have been money for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. Here, eventually, look, people see these things not moving around too much, but what these are insurance policies in many, many ways. These are real money. And eventually we're going to get an implosion. And you know this because I've covered it a gazillion times for 10 freaking years already now. The debt market hyperbubble is a monster. It's a Frankenstein on an epic scale. And it's continually being fueled by runaway central banks here. And they must continue to fuel it to maintain the current environment. But eventually this is going to implode by design. This hyperbubble in debt is no accident. This isn't a comedy of errors that got us here. All right. Eventually, we are going to get this bubble is going to implode, and the ramifications of that are going to send a ripple effect around the world, through the world, and into outer space. That's how intense it's going to be. A meltdown in that debt market is a guarantee, which is going to crush stock markets around the world. And cash, I always tell you, it doesn't fly away to money heaven. It just moves from one reality into another. In my opinion, it's going to go into commodities, extremely suppressed ones like these, and other assets as well here. But that's my take on it. That's where it's going to go. People do not understand how cash moves through the markets. You have to understand the environment being maintained right now is risk on. Henceforth, why we're seeing record high with the stock market. Meanwhile, the economy is in free fall. Last year, I told everyone, the faster the economy craters, the higher the stock market is going to go. Oh, Greg, you don't know what you're talking about. Oh, can't. Boom. Well, how about this year? I also told people at the end of last year watch what was going to happen with regard to corporate layoffs. I said it was going to go crazy. We've got tens of thousands of people being laid off. Corporations making announcements every day. They're laying more people. If that's because our economy is so strong, no. People are being lied to. What did Biden say the other day at the State of the Union? Our economy is the envy of the world. You got to be kidding me. Sure, maybe for the 1 and 2%ers, they're doing great. But the people at the bottom, they're dead. They've been murdered, and in the literal sense, they're going to get murdered too. This whole thing is going to turn around in a massive way. And again, when we get this meltdown in the debt market, which is going to happen, it's a matter of time. I believe it's going to lead to a resource problem on a grand scale, and there's going to be pandemonium in the streets around the world, not just here in the United States. People better be ready at every level for this, because that's how bad it's going to be, in my opinion.
It's interesting to see the world dividing into you could call it East and West hemispheres, although it isn't really. It's countries that are allegiant to this debt-based fiat monetary system versus ones that are making the switch over to commodity-based natural resources, that sort of thing, and talking about establishing their own and actually establishing their own exchanges in precious metals, et cetera, and commodities. Do you have any comments on that split that's happening between the BRICS plus nations on the one side versus the U.S. and Western banking edifice on the other side?
It is kind of interesting to see this thing unfold here. I think people are, first of all, they're not hearing too much about it. I think this is obviously a clear threat to the dollar as the world reserve. The BRICS alliance here, and it's what are they calling it these days? Like almost like the evil axis or whatever it is. The anti-American axis. It's interesting the wording that's being used here, almost like World War II. Does that sound familiar? The Allies versus the Axis powers. Look, this is going to lead. I've been telling people we're going to see war in 24 was another one of my themes at the end of the year. We were going to see war expand and the funding for wars expand. We're seeing it all right now. And again, the job here of, let's say, the Federal Reserve is to, or the goal here is to maintain the world reserve in whatever incarnation may come down the pike here. And they will defend that with military force, nuclear if they have to. They will kill whoever they have to do it. This is a serious problem, and it's a direct threat to human life on this planet. But people aren't being told the truth. They've been so indoctrinated. People, you know this, I don't got to tell you, you're in the same boat as me. They don't get it, and they're unable to see things that are just so in their face because, I guess they've been indoctrinated or whatever it might be. I hate to say it, but it just seems like today I've never even dreamed that we'd be in the spot we're in right now by any stretch of my imagination. But the more I look at it, the more we look at it, it just seems like it's rapidly deteriorating. So what does that tell me personally? It tells me that we got to be close to something big. And I think it may be in 25 after the selection. I'm getting myself really ready for that. You always got to have the high ground. So if I feel like I think something big could potentially happen after the presidential selection, we better be ready because this thing here, they're looking for control. They want widespread mass social unrest. They want an excuse to steal people's freedoms and liberties, and they're going to give people just enough rope to hang themselves, unfortunately, and they're going to take most of us with us, unfortunately. That's how we see this going, man. It's terrible.
Historically, in the late stage of empires, the exhaustion stage, one of the things that emerges is the ultimate commodity that everyone needs is food. And restrictions, limitations, short supply, other kinds of famines, different kinds of problems have generally accompanied this, like hyperinflation, other phenomena that you're already describing in a cratering empire. We've seen unprecedented numbers of explosions, fires, disruptions at food processing plants. We've seen farmers' lands being taken away by the government in the Netherlands, and they're talking about protecting more and more lands and making them federal protected lands here in the U.S. We've seen productive farmland being bought up by billionaires such as Bill Gates and others. Any thoughts that you have on the future of the food supply and any actions that people might want to take to improve their food security?
Absolutely. And people need to think that they will weaponize food. They will weaponize water. Whatever they got to do, they're going to weaponize disease processes as they already have. It's just so twisted what we're seeing. People need to be ready at every level. Sure, they need to have a stash of food readily. Maybe people need to grow their own things as well. This is beyond my scope, unfortunately. I got to rely on other people for that. But there's nothing wrong with, again, at every level, preparing yourself mentally, physically, spiritually, financially. Be prepared to, be starved or whatever they got to use it. However they're going to weaponize the system, they're going to do it, in my view here. But a full-on, complete collapse of the system is going to occur. It's just a matter of when. Is it going to be 2025? I don't know. I just keep feeling like if I listen to my own intuition, it keeps telling me 2025 has a very high potential to be very dramatic. Just looking at the current situation and just drawing lines as to where this potentially could go. You have to take things to an extreme all the time and see if it makes sense. And it does make sense that that's where we're going. So just be ready for it.
As you look forward in time and you see these trends that are intractably in place and some of them accelerating, you've been talking to us for years about the cratering economy being the physical economy being in free fall while the markets marched forwards, etc. Any actions that you think people should be ready to do if you're still through your trading coaching showing people how they can continue to profit from movements in the current market, but be ready to withdraw, at a moment's notice should the tide change. Any thoughts about what people should be, where they should stay plugged in, maybe watching your work, how they should stay connected so that they know how to position themselves for the minimum damage when the big changes are coming?
Well, for people that are in the market like myself, I just look at risk, and And risk is fluid. In other words, there's not any set drawn red lines in the sand here. When I put together my MMRI, I did color codes there, which tried to outline where we are. Right now, we're in a high risk zone. Above 300, according to the MMRI, would be extreme risk. But you have to see how the market is responding to it. Like right now, we have a 10-year yield 4.3 and change, but the market's okay because the market realizes, as I do, that more easy money is coming in the form of rate cuts, which will begin, in my opinion, June. We're going to start to see that. I was initially saying May, but it looks more like it'll be June. I don't think it's going to be May. I doubt it. And the market, that's why the market keeps going higher here on the back of promise of more easy money. So watch risk in the market. And it's never wrong. Like, for example, me. All right. As I look at things and the way things are unfolding and watching the big money, what they're doing, trying to get out of this market, I think, it would be prudent for people to consider pulling out. Like I'm going to say there's an extremely high probability that right before the presidential selection, I will pull out of here. And in the worst case scenario that the market goes up, just get back in. You lose nothing. But in the event that the market would take a big hit, you're safe for a little while, and then you can try to get back in here. Of course you can. It's easy, but always have. And then in the familiar, you got to be diversified, man. You got to have, again, gold, silver. My favorite asset on this planet is silver. You know that. I've been telling everybody this since I started. I look at things like the Dow gold ratio, gold silver ratio. I think people need to be, musical instruments, artwork, classic cars. You got to be, if you have the ability to do that. If you don't, and you had to pick one thing, that's it. That's it to me. Silver. Physical silver is just insanely undervalued right now, in my view. And we should take advantage of every drop in price that comes along here. It's an astonishing thing how the hard asset is deriving value from a derivative. It doesn't make any sense, but it does if you think about that's how they rig the market. It's a crazy thing.
Before we let you go, I want two things. One is I got a couple of funny comments from viewers, but I'm going to first ask you how people can follow your work if they want to stay plugged in.
You can find me anywhere. YouTube, my website, traderschoice.net. Just Google me. I'm easy to find.
And also a reminder, folks, if you don't want to miss a single episode with Gregory or any of our other guests, make sure you get on our free mailing list. We don't share your email address with anyone. Just go to libertyandfinance.com, libertyandfinance.com, put your email address, click submit. Make sure you confirm on the confirming email. That will opt you in. You'll get one email in your inbox per day with all our interviews with Greg and any of our other guests and any weekly specials. And now, Greg, I promised you some funny ones here. Most of our viewers may or may not be aware that you're a drag racing and performance car fanatic. And we have one that says, love for Gregory. I smell Clorox burnouts and jet fuel burning. Another one says, hey, Greg, is the car hooking up better from a dig since reconfiguring the rear suspension?
Yes, thank goodness. A lot of work.
Well, that takes a lot of someone who can tolerate a lot of adrenaline and know how to manage risk to be able to participate in that sport. So kudos to you for that and keeping us all informed here on Liberty and Finance. We always appreciate you joining us for these sessions and look forward to our next visit. Greg, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
This is Kaiser Johnson with Liberty and Finance, and these are the Miles Franklin Weekly Specials for March 11th through March 18th, 2024, while supplies last. First, we feature 90% junk silver mixed dimes and quarters at just $1.99 over spot. We also have AU pre-1933 Gold Liberty at $65 over a 1-ounce spot. And finally, we're offering our choice 1-ounce Palladium bars at just $119 over spot. To order our specials or any of the many other options we have available, call us at 1-888-81-LIBERTY. That's 1-888-815-4237. We're available after hours and on weekends, and we look forward to speaking with you.